Okay, so this is going to be a quick video lesson. We're just going to review some algebra skills before we start into actual geometry, because this is something you need to be able to do just to be able to solve equations. So we're going to do some quick review here of some things involving equations. So let's start first with number one, solving here for m. First thing we want to do is we want to combine our like terms. So 8m minus 3m, if we combine those, we get 5m. So we got negative 10 equals 5m. Now remember, this is multiplication, so when you're solving an equation, you got to do the opposite. So the opposite of multiply by 5 is to divide by 5. So we divide both sides by 5, because whatever you do on one side, you got to do to the other. So those are going to cancel there. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. And there's our m. And it doesn't matter if our variable's on the right side or left side. If you need it on the left side, we can. So that's what I'm going to do with this second equation. I'm going to get my variable on the left-hand side. Sometimes this makes it a little more comfortable for students. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip the whole equation. So I'm going to take what's on the right side, which has my variable, put it on the left. I'm going to take the left side, which has the negative 11, put it on the right. So again, we try to simplify things. I can combine right here 2 and negative 7. If I combine those, positive 2 and a negative 7 is a negative 5. Then I got to get rid of the negative 5, so I do the opposite, which is add 5. So I add 5 to both sides. So again, those are going to cancel. And if I do that, I get n. Negative 11 plus 5 is negative 6. Okay. So that's if the variable, if you need it on the left-hand side. Okay, what about these next ones? Okay, so we've got an added step in here. We've got to do distributive property. So again, I've got to simplify. I got to distribute that through on both sides, so, or on the left-hand side. So if I do that, 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. 4 times 8 is a positive 32. Equals 288. So first thing I do, I've got to subtract this 32. So I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. So hopefully this is all making sense again, remembering this. So if you need to, grab a calculator here. If you do that, 288 minus 32 would be 256. Then again, remember this is multiply, so the opposite of multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 32. Divide by negative 32. Again, grab a calculator. That's okay to use. So I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to do 256 divided by negative 32, and that is a negative 8. Okay. Next one, again, if you need that variable on the left-hand side, just flip your equation. That'll get the variable over there. I'm not going to do that here because I'm going to work it out. So I'm just going to go ahead and start straight with the distributive property. So right here I've got 212 equals negative 28x minus 12. Now I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That's going to cancel. So that's 224 equals negative 28x. Now I need to divide by negative 28. So again, grab your calculator. 224 divided by negative 28, and that's a negative 8 also. So negative 8 equals x. All right, last couple here. So these are a little different because we have variables on both sides of the equation. So how do you deal with that? Well, the first thing you got to do is get all your variables together. So I always teach students move the smallest one. Okay, what do I mean by that? If I look here, I have a negative k and a positive 4k. A negative is always smaller than a positive, so I'm going to move this one over to this side. Now how do I do that? I do the opposite. So in this case, I'm going to add k. Now, what happens? These cancel. Now what you need to remember is this actually has a 1 in front of it, okay? So what I end up with is negative 3 equals negative 3. 4 plus 1 is 5. So there's 5k. Now what? Now I'm going to get rid of my 3. So now I'm looking at a problem like I just got through doing a second ago. So I add 3. Okay. Now, this tricks students sometimes. They look at this and they say, well, that canceled, so that doesn't make sense. But it's okay. You end up with 0. You can end up with 0. Now remember, this is multiply, so I divide. And then students look at that and they say, well, you can't do that either. But it's okay. If you type it in on the calculator, 0 divided by 5 is actually just 0. So I get k is 0. And again, students are like, well, you can't get 0 for an answer. And you can. It is fine to do that. Sometimes you're going to get negatives. Sometimes you'll get 0. A lot of times you'll get positives. Okay? Let's go to the next problem. Very similar to this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add k. So those are going to cancel. So I got -3 plus, remember there's a 1 here, so that's 8k equals -3. Now I'm going to add 3. And all of a sudden, I do this problem, and I get the same thing. I've got it equal to 0. If I divide by 8, then I'm still going to get 0. Okay? And again, that's okay. So hopefully that was a quick refresher of some basic algebra skills. You're going to have a homework to do with this, and then we'll probably do some IXLs with this.